You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's November the 21st, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, your Psychedelics and Cannabis news source. Good morning, Rev Cindy. How you doing?
I'm doing well this morning, Al. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Actually, I'm doing really good. You ever had those days where you put something down or put it someplace and you've forgotten where it was, or you just sort of forgot about it? Today, just this morning alone, I have found two items that I put away and forgot about. And one of them was a couple grams of hash that I just found like 20 minutes ago. And this morning when I got up, I found a whole 6 joints that I had lost in a doob tube over the weekend. Crazy. So double score morning for sure.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about rolling your joints this morning. Your Happle can be loaded like no problem a bunch of times.
Right. That's right. There it is.
Waiting for you.
Yeah. Hey,
that's awesome.
I wish every morning was like this.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't it? All righty. And as far as yourself, anything new and exciting?
Well, there's new and exciting stuff going on, but we'll wait till February to talk about it.
All right. Sounds good. So let's get going with today's news then. How does that sound?
Sounds wonderful.
All right. First story is up.
Coming to us from, pop-ups are blocking everything. Coming to us from Green State, how Trump's cabinet picks feel about pot.
The election dust has settled, and the bigger picture of what the second Trump administration may look like is becoming clear. The president-elect is firming up his cabinet picks, many of which are proving to be controversial. Now, the nominees will be vetted and approved by Congress, where denials are somewhat rare. Government policy is heavily influenced by cabinet leaders who advise the president on topics related to their posts. While many issues fall under their preview, some wonder where efforts to reform cannabis laws will land. Now, according to Rep. Nolan West, a GOP member of Minnesota's state government, Republicans are more apt than ever to move the needle forward.
Because it was on the ballot in Florida, you got to see Trump's opinion on it, which I think reflects the opinion of the vast majority of Republicans. West told Green State. Donald Trump is famously anti-drug and anti-alcohol in his personal life. But as far as other people's personal lives, whatever floats your boat. I think it reflects the broader view of the public and the Republican Party that it's up to the individual whether they participate in it. And that gives me a little optimism about something happening at the federal level.
So where do Trump's cabinet nominees stand on weed? It turns out some may support the cause, while other ranking members of the president administration may need some convincing. Several potential Trump appointees are considered friendly towards cannabis reform. The two most vocal and arguably most controversial nominees are Rep. Matt Gaetz of Florida and Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Gaetz, who has been nominated for the Attorney General position, is one of the most pro-pot Republicans in Congress. Go Gaetz. He co-sponsored the MORE Act, which would have legalized cannabis on the federal level and has consistently voted in favor of reform. Gaetz also supported the legalization of medical cannabis during his state as Florida state representative. The congressman faces an uphill battle in confirmation proceedings due to alleged ethical breaches and sexual misconduct. Secretary of Health and Human Services nominee RFK Jr. has been outspoken about his support for legalizing both cannabis and psychedelics. During his presidential run, the politician said he would use tax revenue from the legal cannabis market to fund drug rehabilitation. Kennedy was inspired by his own struggles with substance abuse in his youth. RFK Jr. is another notably controversial pick given his anti-vaccine stance, which includes spreading misinformation that they cause autism, which apparently they do not.
Another pro-pot cabinet pick is Rep. Tulsi Gabbard, who has been selected as the Director of National Intelligence. The Democrat from Hawaii introduced a bill to deschedule cannabis in 2017 and has supported the use of CBD for military members. While Gabbard would not have an active role in cannabis policy like Gates or RFK, her appointment adds to the pro-cannabis rhetoric in Trump's ear. Now, additionally, tech billionaire Elon Musk has become a key Trump advisor. Musk famously smoked a joint on Joe Rogan's podcast despite telling the host he rarely consumes. It's unclear if Musk favors reform, but his experience with cannabis and ketamine may inform his opinions and influence how he advises Trump on the matter.
Of course, not everyone in Trump's cabinet is on board with federal cannabis legalization. Secretary of State pick Marco Rubio has been clear about his opposition to legal cannabis, calling it a gateway drug. The Republican senator from Florida has said that if cannabis is indeed a medicine, it should be approved by the FDA, leaving some to wonder if he does indeed favor the rescheduling process. Representative or Republican Doug Collins of Georgia is a wild card. The Republican nominee to lead the Department of Veterans Affairs repeatedly voted against proposed changes to the agency's cannabis policies. However, he did vote in favor of protecting state legal medical cannabis programs toward the end of his congressional tenure in 2019.
The Republican Party will also control both the Senate and the House for at least the next 2 years, which will heavily influence cannabis policy. Both Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota and Majority Whip-elect John Barrasso of Wyoming have maintained anti-pot stances. However, Thune has reportedly said he will do his part to advance Trump's policies. If that includes cannabis reform, so be it. It's difficult to predict what policies will be enacted during Trump's tenure, but many in the cannabis space are hopeful some type of change is ahead. It may not be the full legalization Democrat Kamala Harris promised, but removing some restrictions may still bode well for the pot business, just not for consumers or people still in prison.
Interesting.
Yeah, there you go. Over. So we'll see what happens. It's
going to be interesting, and we've got if he does do anything with rescheduling or legalization, he is a politician. He is surrounded by politicians. It's not going to happen for about 3.5 years.
Yeah, and well, what I've heard him say when he was on the campaign trail was, it'll be up to the states, each individual state, on what they want to do, and so basically, you could have a state that is full-on legalization, allowed to grow your own, go to the store and buy your own cannabis, and then you could go to another state where it's anti-cannabis, and they could have obviously jail sentences. You wouldn't be allowed to grow, you wouldn't be allowed to consume. Could they enact a law that if their citizens consume cannabis in another state and they come back to their state, could they be charged with it?
Yeah. I've got, through the course that I took in Mexico, I've got a friend now that lives in Texas. So it was a Texan man. And it is highly illegal in Texas, according to the law. But in Texas right now, it is kind of like Canada 2017. There are illegal pot shops, like literally all over the place. It's like driving downtown Toronto right now. Like every corner has a pot shop, maybe two. People are openly smoking. It's, it's kind of like Vancouver. Yeah, Vancouver, Toronto, pre-legalization here. It's, cops are smoking it off duty. They do nothing about it.
sounds like the state government needs to get caught up with the people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I see that happening a lot down in the States right now. And, not that I follow politics, but I think it's silly for the governments to not get on board. The money that they're missing out on is incredible.
Yeah.
If for no other reason, the money is incredible.
Exactly. Oh, and we were going to discuss at the beginning. Happy birthday, Marco.
Oh, yes. Marco, happy birthday. 65.
65. Yeah.
65.
See why? There you go.
He is he's the dabber guy that I used to give T-shirts away for.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. All righty. On to the next story. What's up?
Coming to us from StratCan, CRA has written off nearly $5 million in cannabis excise tax.
Ooh. Canadian Revenue Agency has written off nearly $5 million worth of excise tax on cannabis as uncollectible as of September the 1st, 2024. According to a newly tabled documents in the House of Commons, a total of $4,718,514 has been written off as uncollectible. The table documents are in response to a question from Taco Van Popta, Conservative MP from Langley, Aldergrave, BC.
All of the companies with excise tax written off as uncollectible by the CRA are located in Ontario. The table document lists 12 such companies. 11 of these show a balance of debt that remains after compromise settlement pursuant to an applicable authority. One of the listed companies shows a debitor is an undischarged bankrupt corporation, with the trustee confirming in writing that he does not foresee any further payments.
The largest amount for a single company's uncollected excise tax debt is $1.9 million from April 2024, while the smallest is $136,000 from September 2024. Of the 11 companies listed, 7 show a debt incurred in 2024, 3 from 2023, and 1 from 2022, and all were, as you mentioned, located in Ontario. You can see the rap sheets right there.
Yeah. I was taking a look at it while you were reading. Yeah. Mr. Van Popta's question in full asked, with regard to entities that owe tax to the CRA for unpaid excise tax on cannabis, 1, how many have filed for creditor protection or bankruptcy, broken down by year since the legalization of cannabis? 2, how much excise tax has been written off in total and broken down by the province or territory of the entity owing tax? And 3, for each entity which owed unpaid excise tax on cannabis and had their amount owing written off by the CRA, what are the details, including the name of entity, location, amount written off, date of the write-off, and reason for the write-off?
Now, according to Insolvency Insider, 47 cannabis-related businesses in Canada have filed for creditor protection since 2019. Another 10 have filed for bankruptcy, 13 have filed for receivership, and 21 have filed for notice of intention to make a proposal under the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act, which allows financially troubled corporations the opportunity to restructure their affairs. Not all of these businesses are operating in Canada. A few operate in the U.S., but were listed as Canadian businesses, and a few are ancillary services to cannabis producers or retailers.
Interesting. As of January 31st, 2024, the federal government says it has collected $3.4 billion in federal cannabis excise, with nearly $2.7 billion going back to the provinces and territories. These amounts reflect the CRA's administration of cannabis duty and information returns provided by the licensed cultivars, producers, and packagers of cannabis and or cannabis products on behalf of the federal, provincial, and territorial governments.
$2.7 billion has been going back to the provinces and territories. So it'd be nice to know where that money's gone.
Yeah.
Now, these amounts reflect the CRA's, I think you read that, yeah. Canada's federal excise tax for dried cannabis flower is effectively $1 per gram, with 75% of this going back to the provinces, as well as an ad valorem rate of 2.5% of the due amount for the cannabis product. Other cannabis products are taxed at a flat rate of 0.0025 cents per milligram. Now, the CAA filings for cannabis companies have shown significant amounts of unpaid cannabis taxes owed to the Canadian Revenue Agency. One recent CCAA listing showed $345,000 owed to the CRA. In a recent creditor protection filing, another company showed nearly $5.4 million owed to the CRA for source deductions and excise tax.
Okay, so let's just go backwards for a second because this just caught me. Canada's federal excise tax for dried cannabis flower is effectively $1 per gram.
Right.
Let's go back a couple other paragraphs to where I read. The federal government says it has collected $3.4 billion in federal cannabis excise. That's a lot of grams.
It sure is. It is. Yeah. Yeah. And apparently 75% of that is $2.7 billion. That's a lot of grams. That's a lot of cannabis. That's a lot of money that's going back to the provinces, but it's supposed to be going also to the municipalities, and some people wonder where it's at.
Yeah.
We were talking about last night on the P.A.C.E radio show.
Yeah.
About the tax. Yeah.
Incredible. So, crazy.
Yeah.
Over
did you, I see you responded while I was busy. Hi. Here we go.
Hey, Waylon.
Hey, Waylon. Yeah, we're live, Waylon. We are live. Just as Cindy, you must have responded back to him, did you?
I did.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're live. There you go. We're just busy talking, so we didn't have an opportunity to.
We usually do the replying to comments in between stories.
Yeah, correct. Yes. All right. Where are we now? We got that story done. Got to move on to the next one. I just got to bring it up. I was dealing with Waylon there. Okay.
Yeah.
Done.
Have to click
there we go. Hopefully. Yeah. Click. We need an off-site person just to run the board for us sometimes. All right, here we go. Next story. It's up.
Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. DEA should be removed from cannabis rescheduling hearing after illegally conspiring with prohibitionists, legal filing says.
Yes. A DEA, or Drug Enforcement Agency administration judge, is being asked to remove the agency from its role in an upcoming hearing on the Biden administration's cannabis rescheduling proposal, with a new legal filing citing alleged statutory violations that include unlawful communication with a prohibitionist group. When the Department of Justice firmly proposed moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act, consistent with a recommendation from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, one aspect stood out. The DEA administrator didn't sign the notice of proposed rulemaking, breaking with historical precedent on federal scheduling proceedings. Instead, it was signed by Attorney General Merrick Garland.
That was one of several factors that led to a motion being filed with the DEA Administrative Law Judge, the ALJ, John Mulrooney, on Monday, seeking corrective action. It was submitted on behalf of Hemp for Victory and Village Farms International, which were both invited to participate in the rescheduling hearing that's set to begin next month. The issue isn't just that DEA Administrator Ann Milgram declined to sign the proposed rule. Throughout that notice, the agency said it needed additional data on a variety of issues, namely cannabis-related health issues and law enforcement concerns, in order to make a complete assessment. The motion argues that the backwards approach to the rulemaking violates federal statute.
By waiting until the publication of the proposed rule, and thus after DOJ had initiated proceedings under the CSA, the flag categories of supposedly necessary data, DEA ensured that HHS would not get to respond to that data in its recommendation and evaluation, the motion says. Even worse, it continues. DEA effectively turned the proposed rule into a blueprint for the prohibitionists it apparently was communicating with behind the scenes. Another issue that's arisen concerns DA's selection of witnesses to participate in the December hearing, which was scheduled following a public comment period that saw tens of thousands of submissions, a majority of which favored rescheduling or otherwise pushed for broader reforms, such as removing cannabis from the CSA altogether. That's the best one right there.
Mulrooney, the DEAALJ appointed to handle the case, recently advised that the agency provided insufficient information about the 25 witnesses who were selected. He ordered the designated participants to fill in the blanks, for example, by making clear where they stand on the question of rescheduling. In doing so, he also pushed back the timeline for the hearing. A preliminary meeting is still set for next month, but it won't be until early 2025, at least until they get to the merits of the case. In the new motion filed with Mulrooney's office, attorneys for the petitioners said DEA's lack of transparency in creating the witness list is alarming, undemocratic, and betrays notions of good governance. In some cases, seemingly qualified candidates who requested to participate in the hearing did not receive formal denials, and the list submitted to the ALJ didn't itemize the requesters or provide information about why they were approved or denied.
Without knowing who DEA excluded and why, there is no way to assess whether and to what extent the agency's decisions are arbitrary, capricious, and subject to bias or otherwise unlawful, the filing says. It continues with, if, for example, DEA included parties with expertise in a particular topic, but only if they opposed the proposed rule, while also excluding parties with even more expertise on that same topic if they supported the proposed rule, then there would be a powerful case to be made that the agency's decisions were arbitrary and capricious.
The filing also argues that by even selecting witnesses in the first place, the DEA usurped the ALJ's role as the presiding officer of the hearing. Among the 25 witnesses that the DEA chose to join the hearing was Smart Approaches to Marijuana, SAM, the nation's leading prohibitionist group. The filing includes screenshots of social media posts where the group's president, Kevin Sabet, indicated he had private conversations with DEA officials about the rescheduling effort as SAM rallied opposition to the reform and urged the agency to keep cannabis in Schedule 1.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so that's who they were speaking to. That's who I wondered. 1 week prior to the DOJ's publication of the proposed rule, Sabet posted on X that he would confirm Milgram wouldn't sign the notice, citing 2 confidential sources inside DEA and another outside the DEA with intimate knowledge. That and other public disclosures added fuel to this latest motion.
In light of this evidence of improper ex parte communications between DEA and private parties, this tribunal must take all steps necessary to ensure that all such communications are discovered and included in the administrative record, it says. In the relief section of the filing, it also calls on the DEA judge to mandate that records of such communication be preserved. Unless and until that happens, there will effectively be 2 records of these proceedings, one that is public and incomplete, and another that is secret, complete, and available only to those in the know. Or, as Dr. Sabet put it, those with friends in low places, it says.
The motion also cites comments given by SAM Executive Vice President Luke Neforetos, who said during a webinar in June that DEA's approach to the rescheduling notice offered prohibitionists a roadmap on how to rebut their own proposed rule. Neforetos said in a statement to Marijuana Moment on Tuesday that the filing is wacky and amounts to pure legal theater and no substance.
While it is an entertaining read, we are certain the filing will be rejected, he said. If anything, they have perhaps strengthened the argument for our participation. In any case, the latest motion implores the DEA tribunal to use every tool at its disposal to uncover each instance of improper contact between DEA and prohibitionists and determine whether those contacts influence the designated participants list created by the administrator.
It says that requiring disclosure of the ex parte contacts is what the law demands, and because sunlight is the best disinfectant, it will restore confidence in these proceedings. Now, ultimately, one of the critical requests attorneys for the cannabis companies behind the motion are making is for DEA to lose its status as the proponent of the proposed rule, because the agency allegedly did not follow statutory rules and improperly selected witnesses, including Sam and other anti-drug groups tied to it. DEA is the opponent and cannot bear the burden of proof in these proceedings.
It is unclear whether DEA ALJ Mulrooney has authority to remove the agency itself as the proponent in the hearing, but the motion advises that the judge should instead have DOJ, or alternatively Hemp for Victory, serve as the proponent. Shane Pennington, a partner at Porter Wright Morris and author LLP, who authored the new brief, said that it is our belief that the DEA cannot lawfully act as the proponent of the proposed rule, and that its actions throughout the administrative process demonstrates that it opposes the proposed transfer of cannabis to Schedule 3 and is therefore compromised.
Treating the DEA as the proponent of the proposed rule would violate the Administrative Procedures Act and DEA regulations and render these proceedings a sham, he said. Lawyers from the Department of Justice, not the DEA, must therefore defend this rule. Meanwhile, cannabis and psychedelics researchers is asking the DEA ALJ to postpone its rescheduling hearing due to the agency's alleged improper blocking of witnesses, while arguing that the proceedings should be halted at least until President-elect Donald Trump's administration comes into power so it can review the rulemaking.
About a week after Panacea Plant Sciences founder and CEO David Hildreth filed a lawsuit in federal court requesting an order halting the cannabis rescheduling proceedings, he submitted a motion to the DEA judge on Monday seeking a stay of the upcoming December hearing. Mulrooney separately rejected a veterans group's petition to participate in the upcoming rescheduling hearing, which the organization called a travesty of justice that excludes key voices that would be affected by the potential policy change.
I got an idea. I think I know who that veterans group is, because I've seen in another report that that group is the Veterans Action Council, which has broadcasts here on the P.A.C.E radio network on Sunday nights.
Yeah,
they've been doing great work down in the States, and they've been, speaking at UN and different places and working away at things. So, they're upset. They believe it should be Schedule 5 or removed completely from the
removed completely is what it should be.
Correct. As far as the story goes, it says, for what it's worth, by President Kamala Harris said recently that part of the reason for the delayed administration cannabis rescheduling effort is the federal bureaucracy that slows things down, including at the DEA. And in March, Harris expressed some frustration with the bureaucratic process of rescheduling cannabis prior to the DOJ's formal recommendation, calling on the DEA to expediently finish the job.
While the Biden-Harris administration facilitated the review that led to the DOJ rescheduling proposal, Trump has also voiced support for the reform. In Congress, numerous lawmakers have shared their own perspectives on the proposed reform with DEA and DOJ since Schedule 3 announcement was made.
In August, for example, Senator Chuck Grassley raised concerns about the Biden administration justification for recommending cannabis rescheduling, demanding answers to questions from federal agencies about how they arrived at that decision and what he described as a rushed and unconventional administration process. A week earlier, top Democratic senators, including Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, sent a separate letter to DOJ's Garland and DEA's Milgram, urging the agencies to promptly finalize the rule to reschedule cannabis.
While rescheduling would remove certain research barriers and free up state licensed cannabis businesses to take federal tax deductions under the International Revenue Service code known as 280E, it would not federally legalize cannabis, as the Congressional Research Service, the CRS, has made known in multiple recent reports. Meanwhile, 2 additional congressional lawmakers have joined the ranks of GOP members who are challenging what they say is the unusual process that led the Biden administration to propose rescheduling cannabis, expressing concern about how the review was carried out and demanding answers.
Rep. Doug LaMalfa condemned the Biden administration's push to reclassify cannabis, as well as legislative efforts to enact bipartisan cannabis banking reform, because he says the policy changes would prop up this immoral industry and give a green light to the evil that comes from drug use. Senator Bill Casey also blasted the Biden administration over what he described as repeated refusals from federal agencies to brief Congress on its plan and justification for rescheduling cannabis, which he argues fuels speculation that the proposed policy change is politically motivated.
Similarly, 25 GOP congressional lawmakers sent a public comment letter in July opposing the administration's planned rescheduling of cannabis, specifically alleging the government's recommendation was based on politics rather than science.
There you go. Now, did we not read a story earlier that said something about they thought there was going to be some good stuff, but now you wonder what's going on there. Okay, I'm just trying to. There we go.
Always wondering what's going on there.
Always. Geez, bro, already halfway through the show. We're not even halfway through the stories yet. Okay, here we go. Next one is up.
Coming to us from Mugglehead Magazine, Nature Study finds irrefutable evidence that Egyptians ritually consumed psychedelics.
Oh, there we go. Sort of new meaning for that song, Walk Like an Egyptian.
Yeah.
Now, a new study has conclusively determined that an ancient Egyptian mug was once used to consume a bizarre brew made of psychoactive substances, human body fluids, and alcohol. A state-of-the-art chemical analysis, one of the world's only remaining Biz mugs, led by a University of Southern Florida professor, found traces of Pignum harmala and blue water lily. It is understood that these substances were used to induce heightened euphoric states for ritual purposes and enlightenment. The lotus flower, in particular, is often depicted in ancient art and hieroglyphs.
Along with these 2 psychedelic plants, Professor David Tanzi and his fellow researchers identified proteins from blood, vaginal mucus, and fermented alcohol made from fruit. The cup, dating back to about 200 BC, has been housed at the Tampa Museum of Art since 1984. Researchers had speculated about its historical use, but didn't have the concrete evidence they do now after a groundbreaking study was published in the Nature Journal Scientific Reports on November 14th.
For the first time, we were able to identify all the chemical signatures of the components of the liquid concoction contained in the Tampa Museum of Art's Bez mug. TANASA says in a USF press release, including the plants used by Egyptians, all of which have psychotropic and medicinal properties. Yeah.
These mugs have been a subject of extensive study and debate among scholars for several years. Many have speculated that they serve some kind of ritual or religious purpose. Their past uses had been largely a mystery until now. From an archaeological student standpoint, the research helps inform academics about the role of P.A.C.E in Egyptian mysticism. Others have analyzed the composition of the mugs, but were not successful.
This is the first time scientific evidence has directly confirmed the use of psychedelics in ancient Egyptian rituals. Study author Enrico Greco told Newsweek on Monday. Now, according to Egyptian Museum in California, many who worship Bez in ancient Egypt were newlyweds that viewed him as the god of fertility and childbirth. Pregnancy in the ancient world was a risky endeavor, and they believed they would be blessed through the admiration of a dainty. The best mug, the best mug is currently on display at the Tampa Museum of Art's Prelude and Introduction to the Permanent Collection exhibits.
Very cool.
Yeah, there you go. So it's good that they can analyze things that's that old and find out what all was inside that mug that we have been used. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right. Time for us to take a break. Time for us to medicate. Time to get a drink. You're watching Psychedelics Cannabis Education News. We're live here at PACEradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at PACEradio.net. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at PACEradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or paceradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at PACEradio.net. Hey, we're back with the news. We got 4 more stories to try to squeeze in here. A couple of them are short, so these shouldn't be too bad. Alrighty, here we go. First one's up.
Coming to us from StratCan, Ontario introduces legislation that would impose new penalties for advertising and promoting illegal cannabis.
The Ontario government has introduced legislation that they say, if passed, will help tackle illegal cannabis sales by prohibiting advertising and promoting the sale of illegal cannabis through the province's cannabis legislation. The changes or the possible changes are part of a larger package of changes as part of new legislation. The Safer Streets, Stronger Communities Act, which includes targeted measures to help support public safety near supervised consumption sites, crack down on auto theft and careless driving, enhance the tools police can use to manage sex offenders, tackle illegal cannabis sales, and support access to justice.
Our government is keeping our communities safe and holding criminals accountable, said Solicitor General Michael Kesner. Today, we're proposing impactful changes to strengthen tools for police officers, improve access to justice, and eliminate dangerous activity that puts hardworking people at risk. In Ontario, crime doesn't pay. The proposed change would amend the Cannabis Control Act of 2017 to add a new prohibition respecting the advertisement or promotion of cannabis that is sold unlawfully, along with related penalty if a person is convicted of contravening the prohibition.
Current penalties for violating various aspects of Ontario's Cannabis Control Act of 2017 can range from up to $100,000 for an individual and up to $250,000 for a corporation. Many cannabis retailers in Ontario have expressed frustration at what they say is under enforcement by the police against unlicensed cannabis stores. This new legislation, if passed, could give bylaw officers more ability to penalize illicit operators without relying entirely on Toronto or Ontario police services. So this would be the bylaw officer who would be doing that.
Yeah. StratCan reached out to representatives of the City of Toronto regarding a recent article about illicit stores in the province, and their response revealed a need for the province to review the Cannabis Control Act, which has not been updated since before legalization. In March 2024, Toronto City Council requested the province of Ontario undertake a comprehensive review of the Cannabis Control Act of 2017 in consultation with municipalities, including roles and responsibilities, funding and enforcement, and addressing unlicensed cannabis establishments, said Shane Gerard, who is the Senior Communications Coordinator. The Cannabis Control Act of 2017 has not undergone a comprehensive review since it was introduced 7 years ago.
He added that the province is responsible for licensing and regulating private cannabis retail stores through the AGCO, which enforces the regulations. Further, Gerard said that the city does, in fact, go after property owners. He says the city can and does file charges against property owners who are in contravention of the Cannabis Control Act. Individuals charged can be faced a $250,000 fine and face imprisonment of 2 years minus 1 day.
The city also pointed out that the current Cannabis Control Act provides limited authority to municipal bylaw officers. These officers do not have arrest powers and are not permitted or trained to use force while carrying out enforcement activities. This makes the enforcement of unlicensed cannabis dispensaries challenging and presents health and safety risks to officers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Bylaw officers?
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to work. Now, there was another story, just so you know, on that same topic, and that was that there's a First Nations reserve in Northern Ontario that is concerned that this law will attack the First Nation cannabis dispensaries across the province.
Well, that's where my mind went. Like, I mean, in reading this story, I think of the old Vapor Lounge, Vapor Central. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, they were strong-armed into closing with legalization. And, you know, I worry about other, like when I was in Toronto, when I came back from Mexico, I mean, like I walked around Toronto and came across a number of either Indigenous owned or legacy dispensaries. And I'm worried about them. Like I thought about the one little market I went to down on Danforth, and, you know, and then I went, my mind immediately, of course, goes to one of the biggest Indigenous ones out there in Ontario, and that's Legacy. Like, what's going to happen to these people?
Yeah. Now, the minister in the other story, the minister says that this is not targeted to go at the First Nation reserves. Yeah.
Well, let's hope, because there's a couple of First Nations green miles that are tourist attracting. I mean, I come to Ontario and I want to do the green miles. I also buy legal cannabis. As a tourist coming to Ontario, I shop both sides, but like they both bring tourists. Like, leave them alone.
All righty. On to the next story. What's up?
Coming to us from Business of Cannabis. Note draws speculation DEA may expand participant list for cannabis rescheduling hearings next year.
Ahead of the delayed and highly anticipated cannabis rescheduling hearings, now is set to take place in early 2025. The U.S. Drug Administration has suggested it could add more participants. Last week, DEA Chief Administration Law Judge John Mulroney rejected the Veteran Action Council's petition to participate in the upcoming hearing on whether to reschedule cannabis from Schedule 1 compound to a Schedule 3. And there's that group that I mentioned earlier,
That we're going
Veteran Action Council.
Yeah, the VAC, one of many organizations to request a seat at the table during the upcoming hearing, called the denial a travesty of justice, adding that while rescheduling was positive, it is inadequate to address veterans' needs. Furthermore, the Cannabis Advocacy Organization for Military Veterans also argued that the proposed Schedule 3 classification is inappropriate for a $32 billion industry, and we're talking American dollars, folks, and would not fully address the tax burdens imposed by Section 280E of the tax code.
Despite the denial, a footnote in the order suggested that the DEA's decision to exclude the VAC may not be altogether settled, leading many to speculate changes to the list of the participants could be on the way. Now, in October, the initial list of 25 participants was publicly announced, but it has since undergone numerous changes. I remember we reported on that, and we were commenting about, geez, how come there's all these prohibitionist groups? Where's NORML? Where's VAC? Where's these people who are good with it?
Yeah, both sides, right?
Exactly.
The American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine missed a procedural deadline, while an oncologist representing the American Academy of Hospice and Palliative Medicine declined to participate. Notably, 5 remaining participants share legal representation by David Evans, a prominent anti-cannabis advocate, highlighting the polarized nature of the hearings. And the December 2nd, 24 hearing, previously expected to kick off the rescheduling process, will now focus on scheduling participant availability for 2025.
We've read a couple of those stories now. It's just like stacking the deck is what they were doing. Busted. Yeah. Not good. All righty. There we go. Next story.
Coming to us from Mugglehead Magazine, FDA gives long-awaited green light to veterans cannabis trial for PTSD.
The FDA is permitting a large cohort of American veterans to smoke medicinal cannabis in a study aimed at gaining insights for combating PTSD. The Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, MAPS, has been pushing for since 2021. It will compare the effects of regular cannabis flower inhalation against the placebo weed consumption. The trial organizers have obtained approval for burning flower regularly, but their application to use vaporizers has not been authorized yet. Placebo. What is a placebo when you're smoking cannabis? What would it be?
Yeah, I don't know, because it would have to, people know the smell and taste of cannabis, so it would have to be something that burns like cannabis.
The only thing I could think about is years and years ago, back in the old High Times magazines, you could buy like an ounce of, it looked like buds for like $20 or something like that. It was just, I don't know what it was that people were selling, but maybe that's what it is. I'm curious what a placebo of a cannabis plant would be. So
absolutely. And I get, something else that caught me in what you said there. The trial organizers have obtained approval for burning flower, but not to vaporize it.
It hasn't been authorized yet. Yeah, correct. I found that interesting as well. I would have thought that the vaporizer would have been first because of the smoking. right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
MAPS founder Rick Doblin, who I met in Vancouver, I just had to throw that in there, says he has listened to several veterans talk about the benefits of smoking cannabis for PTSD firsthand. He is quite enthused about the approval milestone, and I think he participated in the cannabis ceremony we had in Vancouver at the conference, which is really cool.
Good.
Suicide among veterans is an urgent public health crisis, but it's solvable if we invest in researching new treatments for life-threatening health conditions like PTSD. This is what Doblin said in a MAPS news release this past Wednesday.
Funding for the study is coming from the Michigan tax revenue generated by cannabis sales. The research could potentially provide data about how cannabis can reduce intake of other medications and substances among participants. Bud is being supplied by Canadian growers. I know it made a difference for me.
Absolutely.
A Purple Heart recipient has been preaching about the benefits of low THC oil. Last week, he described how it has been absolutely essential to help fight his post-traumatic stress disorder. Gary Herber is one of only 14,000 state residents eligible for Georgia's low THC oil registry.
For those of us that just know that fight every single day, a program like this and medicines like this can make that fight a little easier, Herbert described. He feels that far more states, 600,000 veterans, need to have access to this medical cannabinoid supply program. Do they ever?
Yep. On a more positive note in the U.S., the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services just provided $6.5 million from medical marijuana program to the Missouri Veterans Commission. Some veterans are so passionate about cannabis that they have even created their own brands. One of these is in New York, deemed Silly Nice, has over 70 dispensaries established throughout the entire state.
A 2021 study completed by the National Institutes of Health found that 11.9% of American veterans reported using the plant within 6 months. Another investigation by the American Legion determined that 22% of them used cannabis to alleviate mental and physical health conditions. About 82% believe that cannabis should be rescheduled at the federal level. Federal level, and that comes from the American Legion.
So there you go. Yeah. It's hopefully they can get some good information out that, and maybe someday we'll find out what placebo cannabis is.
Yeah.
If anybody who's watching knows what placebo cannabis is, put a comment in there, and as long as we're still alive, we'll report on that. Alrighty, last story of the day. I knew we'd get them in. This one's gonna be a little bit late, but we'll finish her off. All right, here we go.
We're done. Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Psychedelics may offer potential avenue to help people quit smoking cigarettes, scientific review concludes.
All right. A newly published review of research on psychedelics and tobacco use concludes that there's evidence that psychedelics, in particular psilocybin, may offer a potential avenue for combating tobacco use disorder, though authors say that studies to date are still limited and further investigation is needed. The primary obstacle to drawing conclusions about the possible use of psilocybin or other psychedelics to combat nicotine addiction, says the studies published in the journal Discovery Mental Health, is a lack of relevant research. Only eight papers met the research team's inclusion criteria, and 4 of those originated from a single study.
The very limited number of identified studies do not allow firm conclusions on treatment of tobacco use disorder with psychedelics, wrote authors out of the Netherlands. Still, the identified studies warrant further clinical research of the treatment of tobacco use disorder with psychedelics such as psilocybin. Like, my good Lord, people, addiction. We're treating addiction. It doesn't matter what you're addicted to. We're treating addiction. There's a ton of studies. Yes. Nevertheless, in light of what the paper calls substantial consequences of tobacco use on health, society, and the economy, coupled with the limited effectiveness of existing treatments, authors added that exploring the potential of psychedelics as a part of the treatment for nicotine dependence could provide a novel therapeutic option for addressing tobacco use disorder.
They noted that they eagerly await definitive results from a clinical trial from the Johns Hopkins University studying psilocybin combined with a structured smoking cessation program for nicotine-dependent individuals, as well as a related study launched last November at Johns Hopkins to investigate the use of the 5-HTA receptor agonist psilocybin for smoking cessation, testing psilocybin against the active placebo niacin.
In 2021, the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the NIDA, approved a grant for researchers at Johns Hopkins University, New York University, and the University of Alabama at Birmingham to explore exactly how psilocybin can help people curb the addiction to cigarettes. A separate federally funded study out of Washington State University last year found that the cannabinoid CBD may help tobacco users quit by reducing cravings. The study, published in the journal Chemical Research and Toxicology, showed that relatively low doses of CBD significantly inhibit the key enzyme associated with the processing of nicotine in the body, which could stave off cravings.
Tobacco use has already been declining among the public. Gallup released data analysis last year that found for the first time, for example, that more Americans openly admit to smoking cannabis or eating cannabis-infused edibles than those who said they've smoked cigarettes in the past week. A separate 2022 Gallup poll found that young people were more than twice as likely to report smoking cannabis compared to cigarettes. There you go.
Wow. That's the shortest marijuana moment story I think we've ever done.
I have to agree. I was surprised myself when it was over. Oh, really? But hey, like I said, we'll get done top of the hour. You got it.
We're good.
But it just shows psychedelics can help so many different people, and from mental health issues to addiction issues, and like you said, tobacco. People get addicted to it, even though it's a legal substance. People get addicted to it, and they can, it can help people there. So,
yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And even with the alcohol and the whole bit. So, there's lots there for psilocybin to help society with, and let's hopefully the governments get that assistance out there for everybody, right? So, okay, anything before I shut us down?
I don't think so. Thanks for joining us here.
All right. Thanks for joining us here, and we'll see everybody on Monday. Other than that, from legacy420.com, our news desk, that's our P.A.C.E news report for today. Thanks to our buds at Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, legacy420.com, and At-Eze.ca. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACEradio.net.